G'day, I'm Mark from Self Sufficient Me. Welcome to my outdoor kitchen. I've spent enough time inside preparing for this video, so I thought we would do this part outside here in the beautiful outdoors. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I make turmeric 4 different ways. And at the end, we'll do a taste test to see which one I like the most. The reason I decided to make this video was because I saw a lot of confusion online about how to make powdered turmeric. Do I cook it first? Do I make it raw? Do I leave the skin on? Do I remove the skin? How do I get a fine powder? My powdered turmeric's too grainy, etc, etc. So I've decided to clear all those points up in this one video. Alright, so let's go through what I have in front of me and what I'm going to show you today. I've got turmeric powder with the skin left on. I've got turmeric powder made when I've removed the skin, so skin off. I've got raw turmeric powder that I've made raw without cooking first or boiling first. I've got turmeric fingers, some raw turmeric here for example. And on the left hand side of me, I've got 3 little curry dishes, all just made through a curry paste, no extra added ingredients like meats to change the flavour, just the same curry paste with the skin on, skin off, and the raw turmeric, just to taste and see what the differences are. So how did I make all these types of turmeric? Let's begin with the skin on. Now the reason why I left the skin on was because it was much easier to do it that way. Peel a few kilograms of turmeric takes several hours of standing there or sitting there. So I thought, why not leave the skin on and see what it's like? I've obviously washed it properly, as clean as possible. And then I boiled it for about an hour and a half in a nice large pot. After I boiled it, I left it sit and cool down. Once it was cooled down, I then rinsed it off again to make sure it was really clean. And the boiling process actually did clean it out a lot more. Once I was certain it was nice and clean, I then sliced it in 1/4 inch thick pieces or thereabouts, placed it in my dehydrator on the live food setting. So around 40 or 46 degrees Celsius or 110 Fahrenheit, left it dry for about 10 hours till it was really crisp, completely dried all the way through. Now it shrinks considerably when you've finished drying it. And once it was dry all the way through, I then put it into a coffee grinder or a coffee and herb grinder and then simply ground it down. During the grinding process, you find that it doesn't all grind down perfectly and you might need to do it 2 or 3 times. So what I tend to do is I'll grind for about 30 seconds or so and then pour it out into a sieve, sift it through, and then place the larger pieces back into the grinder and then grind it down into a nice fine powder. Then I just simply pour the powdered turmeric into a storage container. In this case it was a mason jar, but you can use any types of container really. I would hesitate to use Glad wrap bags or plastic bags because the oils in turmeric tend to be fairly potent and they can get sticky and degrade the plastic bag. So that was the skin on. Now let's move on to the skin off. It's exactly the same except you remove the skin. And like I said before, this takes a long time. When I peel the turmeric, I don't worry about the tiny little knobbly bits. What I do is I break them off and I use them to plant out later, these smaller pieces. Break them off so that you have a nice finger and then peel that finger. Saves a lot of time and it's unnecessary anyway. By the time you peel these tiny little knoblets, it's hardly worth it. And they're better off being planted back in to make new big plants and tubers. So that's the skin off, done the same way except just peeled first. Now the skin off but raw. Again, made the same way as the skin off except you don't boil it or roast it before dehydrating. There's no need for that. You're just dehydrating the raw state. So peel it, cut it into 1/4 inch thick pieces, put it in the dehydrator, dehydrate it on the live food setting, nice and raw, comes back out, grind it down, and then you've got your raw, uncooked turmeric. And on the far side here, I've got the fingers. And these were simply made after the boiling stage of the skin off. Just kept the fingers, and instead of cutting them into 1/4 inch thick pieces, I dehydrated them whole. I selected the largest fingers that I had, and because I knew they would dehydrate down fairly small, and just left them like that. And the reason why I did them is because these are excellent to give away as Christmas gifts in little packets, little bow maybe. Dried turmeric fingers like this can be used to grate over things, grate over cooking, even grate over the top of a latte to give a nice little scented taste and smell on top of your coffee or any type of drink really. Nice and healthy, and a good way to preserve it and keep it. Alright, so that's how I made the turmeric. Now let's go through and compare them with the skin on, the skin off, and the raw completely. First of all, the reason why turmeric is boiled first, normally before it's dehydrated and then powdered, is it's supposed to break down some of the oils and enzymes in the rhizome itself to make it better for storage, preservation, possibly even less pungent in a way for cooking and eating. So the first thing that I noticed was with the skin on, it's a more grey type of look. And that's to be expected because the skin's left on, the skin's grey, so you're going to get this speckled grey type of powder. Then you would say with the skin off. The other thing it is it's sort of lighter as well. It's not as dark, and I think the reason for that is when you have a look at turmeric, if you break it through just under the skin for the first mil or two, there's a lighter flesh. And then the further you go into the core, the darker it gets. By not peeling the turmeric, you're leaving that lighter portion in there, and that's obviously going to make the final powdered product a little bit lighter than say if you're peeling it, which is the skin off version here. You can see that it's a much richer and darker colour. That's because when you're peeling it, especially with a paring knife, you're taking that clear or that lighter layer away, and you're just dehydrating and powdering the darker colour. So obviously it's going to be a darker colour. The raw powdered turmeric turned out brighter again. It's distinctly more orange, and it's even finer. If you don't boil it or cook it, you get more of a original colour, which is still that bright type of yellow or orange that you see. So that brings me to the final taste test. I made 3 separate curry pastes, all with the same base, but with adding the skin on, skin off, and raw turmeric to see if there was any difference in taste. I haven't tasted these yet, so this will be live to this video of my first time that I've tasted any of them. The simple base for this curry was some garlic, chilies, onion, a little bit of sugar, and a little bit of salt, all ground up, made into a paste, fried off in some canola oil, all exactly the same amounts of turmeric added, and cooked for the same amount of time. So let's go ahead and have a taste of them. First of all, as we've got them here with the skin on. Now remember, this is a curry paste. You don't normally eat it like this. This is meant to be added to your food and then cooked up into, a curry. Quite warm actually. Those chilies are fairly hot, surprisingly, but I can taste the turmeric through it. Beautiful. Let's try now with the skin off. You can see the different curries here. The one with the skin on is a darker grey. The one with the skin off here that I just tasted is more bright. It's an orange bright. And you know what? I can't taste the difference between those two. So let's have a taste of the raw with the skin off, this last one. If anything, this last one is less pungent than the other two. Let me just have another taste. That's surprising me. I'm really searching for a difference, but boy, they're good. So my overall evaluation and conclusion would be that if you wanted to make turmeric nice and fast, I would boil it up whole with the skin on. And yes, it doesn't look as pretty. It looks a little more grey and not as red and flamboyant, but it tastes exactly the same as if you spent hours and hours peeling the stuff to only dehydrate that orange core. If you're worried about the raw side of things and you don't want to cook it first and you just want to dehydrate it raw for the health reasons and those type of aspects, well, I would say go for that as well. I'm not sure about the health qualities, if it's going to be any better for you, but if you believe it is, it's certainly no problem doing it that way from my testing. You're still going to get great results. Yes, if you're going to use that raw over a latte or sprinkled over something to eat, you've got to remember that that's going to be a little bit more pungent than the cooked ones. But if you like it that way, go for it. And of course, don't forget, you can always just use the turmeric raw like this, ground up into a paste straight the way it is, without powdered at all. For convenience sake, and also uses in many types of cooking and dishes, the powdered form obviously is a great way to make turmeric and to store turmeric in a nice glass airtight container. If you've got any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Have a look for the t-shirts. These are just new. Down in the description below, there's a link to the t-shirt shop. I'm going to get these curries and I'm going to scrape them all together, and we're going to have a meal tonight using those three. So they're definitely not going to go to waste. They taste fantastic. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now.